What is up, folks? How are you doing? Just yesterday, on October 18th, we had the second round of No Kings protests. So, if you're unfamiliar, where the hell have you been? Basically, a bunch of people all over, they gather around and they stood outside a courthouse on a Saturday when they're closed and held up signs for a couple of hours. And then they went home. It was super interesting. There was one in my county. I think there were actually two in my county. A couple hundred people showed up to each, and yeah, I mean, one of them got arrested at the one that I was close to. Somebody got arrested, so that was kind of funny, I guess. I don't understand it. I don't understand it at all. I mean, like, I get the idea, right? They don't like Trump. They're protesting Trump. I understand that. That's not something I need explained to me. But it just doesn't seem like they're actually protesting any policy at all. They just seem to be protesting him, which is fine, right? But the No Kings, right? Is it an organization? I feel like it's an organization. They stand for the democratic process, and they're standing up to authoritarianism and all this, which doesn't really make much sense to me, especially not when the first one was like very shortly after he was elected, and you know, he was elected democratically, and at that point I don't think he had done anything, at least not in this term, that you could consider like tyrannical. I mean, maybe he did, but I see now at this point there are maybe a couple arguments you could make. I pretty much disagree with them, but sure, there are a couple arguments that you could make about him being a tyrant or whatever. And it seems like a big part of this also is anti-ICE, which I did talk about in a different video, so you can check that out if you want to, but the anti-ICE thing is stupid. But anyway, I'm looking at this article here that I found, Pushing MAGA Out, the Resistance Ramps Up. In my previous article, A Path to Pushing MAGA Out of Power, I offered a set of ideas about what is needed to block MAGA in a way that offers more than temporary relief from authoritarian rule. The goal is to put in place a new governing coalition in 2028 that will start on the road towards deep structural reform. To achieve that, we need to build a powerful synergy of mass resistance and electoral work, scale up protests to beat MAGA candidates at all levels in the elections, strengthen the progressive wing of the broad anti-MAGA coalition so that it can shape the politics of electoral campaigns against MAGA at all levels of the government. Put a stamp on both domestic and foreign policy of a post-MAGA federal government and play a leading role in state-level governing coalitions, at least a few blue states, while increasing progressive political weight in purple and red states. So this is like a big big anti-MAGA thing, right? And I don't see any need to do the stupid bullshit that I see people do where they're like, they don't want America to be great. I mean, like, obviously they're protesting the movement, not the words. But yeah, they are just against MAGA. They're talking about how he's authoritarian because he accelerated its full spectrum effort to consolidate authoritarian rule. The Texas GOP's move to follow Trump's advice and steal 5 House seats via racist gerrymandering. Talked about that too. And the federal government taking over the DC police and deploying the National Guard in the nation's capital were initial escalations. Since this time, Donald Trump has deployed the National Guard to Portland and Memphis, threatened to send troops to Chicago and other cities, while ICE brutality has intensified. I don't want to get into the ICE thing or the gerrymandering thing in this video because I've already talked about them, but yeah, so he's authoritarian or whatever, and so that's what they are protesting. But other than ICE deporting illegal immigrants and Texas doing something they don't like, I haven't seen any good, real, like, policy that they disagree with that he's doing that is authoritarian, I guess, if that makes sense. But there are obviously lots of articles and lots of people talking about No Kings because, you know, it's a big deal. It's all over. Millions rally against Trump at No Kings protests across the U.S., organizers say. Here's why protesters say they attended. To celebrate her 70th birthday, retired government worker Peggy Cole says she and a friend drove nearly 10 hours from her hometown of Flint, Michigan to join a protest in Washington, D.C. Quote, "It seems to me Trump is taking our government, our democracy, and dismantling it piece by piece, slowly but surely, if we sit by and don't do anything about it." So, a lot of these people genuinely think that their way of life and the country is at stake because of this. And I'm not here to say that they're stupid or they're wrong. I'm stupid. But the part that intrigues me, that makes me want to talk about it, is the fact that I feel like they're not actually fucking doing anything. They're holding up signs in front of courthouses when they're closed for a couple hours on a Saturday. And like where I live, there shouldn't have really been a protest at all, just because like it's a small town and it's legitimately not doing anything. And I don't think it's really doing anything anywhere, because they're not actually trying to push for anything specific other than just saying they don't like Trump, right? I don't necessarily think this is garnering additional support for anti-MAGA candidates. And they're obviously Democrat, right? This is obviously a Democrat movement, which I think that's the main issue, right? Is that it's a Democrat movement, because 7 million people attended, apparently. That's a lot of fucking people. And you know what? With 7 million people, we could really get some good shit done, right? I think it would be better if this whole No Kings thing, because I like the idea, right? No kings. Nobody wants a king in America, at least. I guess other places like their king. But nobody wants a king, and I think that it could be really constructive and it could actually do a lot to change, right? Like, take a lot of nonpartisan issues, things that American citizens care about, right? That the government doesn't care about, or the government doesn't want, because it would limit the government. And if you have that many people, you can do shit to make change. All you need is one legislator to sponsor a bill and get it, put through to Congress for them to vote on it. And if you have 7 million people in the country, or even more if it was nonpartisan and it was actually working towards things Americans care about, you could enact a lot of change. I think that a good example of something we should and could change with millions of people on board is the idea of single issue bills in Congress, where these bills get drafted and they're so full of other bullshit that has nothing to do with the main point of the bill, that like it's all filler. It's just a lot of it has to do with money changing hands, and they just want to give money to certain groups or certain people, or do things with the money that is outside of the idea of the bill, or what the bill's named, or what the press is talking about the bill. So they sensationalize it, they demonize anybody who votes against it, even though there may be good reasons to vote against it. It's just all these different things are there, and you fucking, you gotta like it, or else you're a piece of shit or whatever. I think single issue bills would be really beneficial for the American people, because then you know exactly what these people are voting on, how they're voting, and what's being brought up, right? You know when they don't care about you, and you know when they're doing something that's beneficial for you. It seems like a win-win, it might make things go a little bit slower, but things are slow anyway. And if this was the case, we wouldn't run into things like the government shutdown as much, I don't think anyway. I think that it really would solve a lot of issues. It would give more honesty and clarity. It would make more people in the government honest. And that's a good thing. That's something we should do. I think that most people would agree with that. So if we had 7 million people all on board with this, and we're all going to strike or protest or something, right, in the name of this bill, get it through, get it passed, because the thing is, millions and millions of people across the country have the power to destroy the country in less than a week. If you had enough people on your side, then that many people just simply not going to their jobs would cripple the country very quickly. That is a threat that the government like can't refuse. You know what I mean? It's civil unrest, it's nonviolent protesting, but it only works when it's at large scale. So that's why this would have to be nonpartisan, because if it's a partisan issue, then it's got to be handled a different way, because you can't get enough people on board, right? If it's a nonpartisan issue, if it's something that the majority of Americans think is something that should be supported, they're a lot more likely to support. Does that make sense? I just think that actual change could be enacted with this many people, and I think that it's a shame that they're actually not doing anything. They're just standing outside on their day off for a couple hours. No kings, no ice. It's like disappointing. You know what I mean? God damn. I don't know. If this seemed rambly or anything, I'm sorry. I just really don't get it. I don't get it, right? I feel like we should be doing more than this. And I'm not talking about, you know, any anti-Trump shit, because, like I said, it's got to be nonpartisan. But nothing's getting accomplished. It's just annoying. I want to leave this off on a note that I think is funny, okay? And I'm sure you've seen this floating around, but it's just, it's something that I think is funny. So I wanted to bring it up here. Democrats Abroad posted something on their site just talking about the protests that they're doing. A few notes. We've changed the No Kings theme of other events around the world to No Tyrants, so as not to mix messages in a country with a monarchy. We're also swapping out No Crowns in favor of No Clowns. Come dressed as a Trump clown, Donald Trump himself, or one of his cronies. I just think it's really funny that they changed the No Kings theme, because it might make some kings upset. Right? I don't really know what the point of Democrats Abroad is. I feel like in a lot of these matters, people in other countries should kind of sit the fuck out. But whatever, you know, people are allowed to do whatever the hell they want. And this whole thing about the come dressed as a Trump clown or Donald Trump himself is like, it's also, it makes it so stupid, because I've seen all kinds of pictures, people dressed up in like inflatable lobster outfits, holding these signs. And like, on the one hand, you legitimately think that Donald Trump is Hitler and is going to indoctrinate everybody and kill a bunch of people and is the worst possible thing that could happen. And then on the other hand, you're wearing inflatable outfits to protest it, and it's like, that's so unserious. That makes you look stupid, and it makes the whole movement look silly, right? And like, not sophisticated, not like it's an actual concern. It's just something you dress up as a clown to go to. You know what I mean? At my local one, there was a person dressed as a clown. There was another person wearing an inflatable dinosaur suit. What the fuck? Why? I don't know. It makes it all seem stupid. And if it's stupid, then why are you doing it? And if it's not stupid, why are you treating it that way? I just don't get it. And you know, I wish we could see some organization like this on nonpartisan issues and really bring the country together to the next specific change that would be good for everybody. But I don't think that's ever going to happen, just because everything's so sensationalized and everybody really cares a lot about, you know, who you voted for and shit like that, that people are willing to not talk to family or friends and cut them entirely out of their lives just because they disagree on something, instead of talking about it like adults and having real adult conversations. So yeah, that's the end of this one. If you are capable of having a real adult conversation, let me know what you think in the comments. And do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you actually know what this is about other than just fuck Trump? Is it exclusively just a fuck Trump thing? I don't know. whatever. I hope you liked the video, or at the very least found it mildly interesting. That's all I got for you today, but I will see you tomorrow. Peace.